You need to see that you're not trying at all.
But they said to me, aha, what do you think, you're black?
Not you exposed. And if we're going to be in the film space has to be conducive for us.
So let's talk about that for a second.
Hey, welcome to the very first episode of Occupy All Spaces, the podcast.
You. Oh my gosh, a podcast, crazy.
It is wild, and I cannot believe that the brains behind this are seated with me in this room right now. That's my mind.
No, it was
Okay, while they do all of that, it's such a coincidence, or maybe not, that this particular episode falls in line with Christmas, and thus why we're all very Christmassy.
I love Christmas. Christmas is my favorite holiday.
We'll be playing a game.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So the rule of this game is the word needs to be spelled correctly, quickly, and cannot be spelled in order of which we are going with it. So for instance, if I were to if we say spell priest, and I go P, the two of you cannot say you can say I at the same time. It cannot be at the same time, but it needs to be correct.
But we can't do it in order?
No, we just have to hijack it.
Let's go, I'm ready.
All right, we love the energy. All right, for every mistake, participants must start again until the word is spelled right.
Okay, let's do this. I'm ready.
First word is peppermint. P.
E.
You
P.
have to start again.
I'm already 3 letters through.
All right.
P.
E.
P.
E. No, P.
Start again.
P.
B.
B. Start again. P.
E.
P.
P.
E.
R.
P.
Is it Peppa Pig?
One more time. We had a roll there.
One last time. Let's go. P.
E. P.
P.
E.
R.
M.
I.
N.
T.
Yeah! We almost did it, but the T. Okay, next
What?
word.
The T was the right T.
There is
Two
a
of you did
T.
it.
Oh, well, it's good enough.
Next word. Cozy. Let's go. C.
O-Z-Y. I just got impatient. Sorry. Again. From the
It
top.
works. It works. Next word. Mary.
M-A-R. No, M-E-R. Sorry. M.
Bad.
Pump it up. Pump the energy. Let's go again. M.
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 M. M.
E.
R.
R.
Y. You were not useful.
Because I asked the producer.
You were not useful at not one time. That word didn't even.
Gingerbread. G.
I.
N.
G.
E.
R.
Jim.
B.
B. R. E.
A.
D.
D.
No, okay.
R.
Wrap it up. Wrap it up.
Carrie, I have this beautiful biography of you. And
Sorry, before we do that, we didn't even say what this whole podcast thing is about. It's the first episode.
I'm just so excited to talk
I
about Carrie.
know. Like Carrie's like the Carrie is in the building.
But this is the podcast of 2025.
For real.
I also just realized that I never introduced myself. My name is Yejide, Emioladipupo, and with me today is the
Ifelua Victoria Ludaminola Alaba.
she's Alaba. And with me, we have this beautiful guest.
Kerry Gamberg.
Megan?
Yeah.
Megan is crazy.
I know.
Wow. I didn't see you as a Megan.
Me neither.
Ife, do you want to tell us what Occupy All Spaces is really all about?
Yeah, so Occupy All Spaces is an organization where we aim to empower, elevate, and educate Black people in the film and entertainment industry in Newfoundland and Labrador. And yes, Yejide is about to make fun of me because it sounds like an elevator pitch, but it is what it is. So we do workshops, we do film camps, we do so many things. And we thought that we should just do a podcast so that people who don't live in Newfoundland and Labrador, people all over the world can gain some useful insight on the industry. And that is why we're here. And today's our very, very first episode. I'm so excited that like, you know how this one little idea is now like a thing happening. Yeah. And Kerry, who's basically like the push also is sitting right here. Yeah. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah. I'm very honored to just be speaking with these two talented human beings today. I'm a host. She's the co-host, but it feels like I'm going to be interviewing both of them. Back to Kerry's bio. I'm just going to read it out to you guys just because I feel like I would have said that I know you. But reading this, I don't know. half of what this is. Anyway, listen to the superstar. Kerry Gamberg is a Canadian director, a producer, and a fixer with a collective 38 nominations and 17 awards.
Even you
You're
do
so
too much.
humble,
You
you
do too
know.
much.
I haven't done a lot since. But let's just keep
This
going.
is where you say, yes, I do it all.
Yeah, I do a lot.
17 awards under our belt for our first two shorts, Asking for It in 2018 and Crush in 2018. Additionally, in 2019, Kerry released her first short form documentary, Fade Forward, the story of 1949 on CBC television and CBC Gen. In 2020, Kerry was awarded a standout 20K grant from the Harold Greenberg Fund and the Newfoundland and Labrador Film Development Corporation for a short original script, Animal Arrangements. Such a brain. And is currently in development on the feature-length version. Also well known for her service production work on CNN's Anthony. That is just so.
I should have said you were shorter by.
I would say to a quick introduction, but really, why are you
Well,
here on this podcast today?
I'm not sure. Well, let's go back. I've always wanted to be on a podcast, and no one's ever asked me to be on one.
Honestly, we
here I am.
dabble in like making bucket lists come true.
Yeah, literally. But all of that on my bio aside, what I've really been doing for the last 2 to 4 years is a ton of mentoring. But I would say the first time Ife and I talked about this podcast was definitely a year ago, if not longer. But I didn't ever think I was going to be a guest on it. That was all Ife. But I'm so happy because I've always wanted to be on a podcast.
I am so honored to be a part of this. One of the things that was not stated on your bio was that you were an airline stewardess.
Yes, I was. I was a flight attendant.
I feel like that is so you though.
It is so me. I love that job.
Like, you know how like you see people and you're like, oh, this could be like a sheep herder. Like, I feel like Kerry's like, oh, airline. Crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think any movie producer would make a really good flight attendant because they can, like, just deal with logistics and emergencies.
And I love how you just said that you feel like any film producer could be. I can't see at you. See, I feel like those are.
Yejide said, you want to fly up the airplane, but I don't jump up the airplane.
So now you tell me how you moved from that to being a producer, a director, the logistics person. Like, how?
I always wanted to be 3 things ever since I was little: a pop star,
I see it.
a filmmaker, and a flight attendant.
I see it.
2 out of 3 is not bad here.
Yeah.
66.33%.
No, I'm going to get auto tunes, though. I'm going to make a track. At some point, I am dropping
You know,
a
it's
song.
not every dream that you have.
Maybe
that
our
needs
Christmas
to
song
happen.
should just come in here.
Honestly, a Christmas.
Listen, okay, so I also have a bit of a business brain. If you're gonna record a song, make a Christmas song so you can actually make money in royalties. Oh, I moved to Halifax, and what happened there? I was working in a hotel and had the opportunity to interview for Air Canada. I got the job. They moved me to Toronto. I did a 5-week training thing, and then I was a flight attendant for about 4 years, and then I got laid off because there were like massive cutbacks in the industry. So then I moved to Newfoundland because Republic of Doyle was shooting at the time. And I never thought that I would be able to like have a career in film and television in Newfoundland. It never occurred to me, ever. And then like a couple of weeks in, they needed somebody to come in the office and like just fill in for a day. And so I did it. And then 2 days later, they asked me to do it full time. And I just never stopped working since then. Yeah.
Shout out to Air Canada for laying you off, man.
God, I love that job. Yeah, that job was so good. But it pays crap. But when I started working, yeah, that's the other reason.
Thinking of
I was like,
changing
I was like,
career.
5
No,
weeks
no,
is
no.
not a bad amount of
Yo.
time, but once you mention the pay, let's just
Yeah, you can forget it.
sit my butt back
Yeah.
down.
Well, when I started on Republic of Doyle, I worked in the production office, so I got like a kind of behind the scenes look at how a film or TV show comes together, like how you get crew, how you get equipment, how you break down scripts, how you make a plan. And so like, this is so stupid, but after doing one season, I was like, I could totally do this myself and I could definitely do it better. Not necessarily true, but after 2 or 3 seasons working in the production office and like upgrading in positions, I started producing my own stuff on the side while I was still working with the bigger shows. And then eventually I stopped working for the bigger shows and just produced my own stuff.
I love it.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Like, I think when you said that you could do it better because you're sitting there and there's the machinery basically happening around you, when did you realize that you couldn't do it better?
I mean, I kind of can. If I have the right budget and the right team, of course I can.
So, like, what do you feel like, what project, like, catapulted you significantly to get you where you are today?
It's always your own project. Like, if you're a producer, I'm a producer and a director.
Can you tell us what the difference between those two are, just for the people that...
Yeah, so basically, when you have a project, a film project, whether it's a TV show, a short film, a feature film, whatever, you start with a script. And the producer, you have a producer and a director and a screenwriter. Screenwriter writes the script. The director puts that script on the screen, and the director is responsible and has the final say for everything that goes on screen. The producer's job is to do everything it takes to get that on screen. So the producer has the final say on everything behind the scenes. So script comes first, but in order to produce a script, you need money. So the producer gets the money, and then the director comes and takes the visual aspect and brings that to life while the producer is supporting that and handling all the logistics. The money people. And at the end of the day, like, not a lot of people know this, and it doesn't always happen this way in short film. But at the end of the day, like, say, for example, if a movie wins Best Picture at the Oscars, it's actually the producer that gets that award, not the director, because at the end of the day, the producer is the person on the team who takes the highest risk, leverages the most, brings the money to the table. So they're the owner of the product at the end of the day, and they're like kind of top dog, which is a lot of the reason why I like doing that. But I'm a director at heart. And the reason I started producing is because I needed to make my own movies and I couldn't find a producer to do it for me. So that worked for a little while, but I realized I needed to start kind of like shifting and doing more producing in order to do more directing. But then I found this chick and I was like, oh, she would be a deadly producer. And I don't even remember exactly how, but I heard Ife's song. It was Vibes, actually. It was before I reached out to you. Vibes was the first song that really, like, I found it on Instagram and I was like, who is this Rihanna living in Newfoundland? And I stalked her a little bit. I went on her Instagram and stuff and I reached out to her and I was like, who's doing your music videos? I want to work with you. And somehow that became me dragging you a little bit away from music, but not entirely, but fully into the film world. And I was like, she can produce. Ife
We
has
still
the
haven't
bones.
done that music video.
No, we haven't made a single music video. We've done a lot of
one
other things.
music video till today, guys.
Yeah, but Ife had the bones to produce, and I was like, I want to invest in her big time. Like, I wanted to spend time mentoring Ife because I was like, it is so hard to find producers who want to produce. So gold mine.
You've done that, and you've done an amazing job. I can tell you that.
Stop, guys. Stop.
What has been your favorite moment, and which of them would you, if you weren't paid, would you do?
Directing.
What?
Because, like, when you're directing, say, for example, my first 3 short films, 2 of them were narrative, 1 was a documentary. With the narrative films, they were just little stories that I had in my head and my heart that I put on paper. And then I enlisted 30 people to come in on that tiny dream with me and make it become a reality, which is really vulnerable. But it is so fun having creative control of every single piece of a story and every single thing that goes on the screen in a story. Because every single thing you see in a film is a choice. every single detail, whether it's like I chose this nutcracker for a reason. It's gorgeous. I like that about directing, and I like telling stories, and I have stories to tell. So, but I also love producing because people tell better stories than I do. I can never do as good as you guys could.
So like obviously you've said that like you worked in a production office and things like that. And I feel like everyone who's kind of in this industry has to have different skills to even put your own work out there. Um, what skills did you have to have? What do you even develop and have right now? Because like I always say, like Kerry's a whiz at budgets, which is one of the most important things you can learn. So what skills do you think are important that has gotten you to this point, and what skills are you still developing?
Well, I am really good at budgeting, but for the record, I failed every math course I ever took after grade 6. I am terrible at math. I hate numbers. I'm okay at Excel spreadsheets. But I learned how to be excellent at budgets from Anna Petrus at NIFCO when I did my Picture Start project. And the Picture Start project is an opportunity here in Newfoundland to apply for a short film budget with a script where you get anywhere between $25,000 and $50,000 towards a short film. And in that process, you get really close mentorship. So that's how I learned to budget. And in terms of other skills that I think are really crucial, one thing I know is I can tell within the first request of somebody that I've hired if they're cut out to be a producer. If I ask somebody, say for example, let's say I need a green box. I need somebody to get me a green box. Depending on how the person replies to me, I know if they can be a producer or not. If they look at me and say, yep, no problem, and they take off, then they can be a producer. If they say to me, you know, where do I go get it? What size does it need to be? What shape does it need to be? How do you have a contact? I'm like, I just need you to get the box. Like, and I will give basic details, but my point is, and that's not the best example, but my point is, if you don't know how to pick up the phone, or if you don't have the wherewithal to like pick up the phone, Google something, look at a phone book, find an answer on your own. I know that's when I started. We have phone books, but like for real though, if you don't have the wherewithal to go out and find answers on your own, don't try producing. Like you really need to have confidence and have a voice and just be ready to make mistakes, because that's all part of producing. It's like just literally making things happen. And when people say, how would you describe your job as a producer? I always just say, my job is to make the impossible happen. Somebody comes up with a dream and it's visual, and my job is to just make it happen. So I just do.
The cape looks nice on you, honestly. It's a superpower, okay?
And like you said that your job is to make things happen. And there are a bunch of mistakes that you just have to embrace and make. Are there any mistakes that you feel like you've made, and barriers that you've had to overcome, and how did you do that?
I mean, I've definitely made a million mistakes, but the only mistakes that really bother me are the ones that I've made with my own films on screen. Like just little tiny choices I either made or I gave away to somebody who thought they knew better. Those are my regrets. And
What
those
do you mean gave away to someone you thought knew better? What does that mean?
So there's a thing that happens, in my opinion, when you're a first-time director, especially as a female or maybe a person of color, anybody marginalized, anybody other than a secure white man, who are born and given and fed confidence their whole lives. The rest of us figure ourselves out on our own. So when you go onto a film set and say you're doing your first short film as a director, somebody's given you $50,000 to make that film. So there's money invested in you and people are trusting you. So that's a lot of pressure that should be taken seriously. But again, when you're a first-time director and you have a budget, you hire people who are more experienced than you to be your camera team, your grips, your lighting, your sound, your post team. Everybody you surround yourself are going to be professionals. That's the smart thing to do when you have a budget. So what happens for first-time directors quite often is they get on set and they've got their shot list, they've got their plan in their head, and they sit down with their director of photography, they're sitting down with cast, they've got lighting, they've got technicians. All these other people are working together to make your film come true and all have a say in how they do that. So there have been times when I've been challenged, say, for example, by my director of photography and kind of questioning, are you sure you want the shot to look this way? Are you sure you want to break the fourth wall in this scene? And you get this kind of like, you question yourself as a first time director, do these people with more experience know better than me? Or do I know what I want? And when I had that experience, I was like, well, I guess they know better than me. They've been doing this longer. So I gave those decisions away and I took their advice. And then I went into the edit and I was like, I knew I wanted to break the fourth wall. There was a reason I wanted to break that rule. It was in my stomach. It was in my story. Why on the day did I let somebody more experienced and more confident than me tell me what to do? Those are the things I regret. And I still see them when I watch my film. I'm just like, oh, that part. Hate that. I can't believe I gave that away. In terms of like making mistakes with like insurance or how I'm contracting cast or spending money, like those mistakes don't scare me at all. You get $1 million to make a feature film, you're gonna make some mistakes.
Yeah.
There's contingency built in there. You shouldn't make mistakes, but you're good. We're all human. And sometimes money is just there to fix mistakes. And sometimes,
Money is there to fix mistakes.
yeah, and protect the vision. So as a producer, if you're going to be scared of working with money and spending money and taking those chances, then you're not going to get far fast.
One of the things that I love and admire about you is passion. You're just so passionate about anything that is just like I've watched you walk behind the scenes. Like I literally watch you go around.
Not a stalker.
Well, I stalked you. Yejide can stalk me.
But yeah, it's passion, and I admire it so much because I thought I had passion, but there's so much to learn. And the first time I met you was here at this boot camp.
Yes.
Yeah.
We look like babies, guys.
Yes.
There's me,
Yeah.
Asmund, Yejide. Ife is not even there. Oh, yes, she is. And there's Joe.
Yes, Joe. I would.
Yeah, Joe's behind the camera.
Yeah. So you were not just passionate about what you were doing, but you were passionate about Black creatives, and for us to just go into the world and
it.
just do it. That's what I heard.
Take that money.
Do it. There's money out there for you. Go get it.
And I'm like looking at my bank account, like, where's the money for me?
Well,
And she has so many resources to give us, and also in one of.
And where are we now?
Listen, we're doing it.
We're spending money right now on cameras, lights.
We're doing it.
Picture frames.
We're doing it. And in and cups. One of your recent interviews with Tandy, you also mentioned that one time you heard about 1949 Barbershop and you're like, oh, these are some Black creatives. I got to interview them and do documentaries. It just shows where your heart is and how much you want us to succeed. So tell us about allyship. Is that how to say that word?
What?
Allyship?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the
say
industry,
it?
what does it look like in action?
I mean,
That's a deep question, bro.
I think this is such a white person answer. What do I think allyship is? Does it matter?
It does matter.
Yeah,
what
I
you
guess it
think.
does.
What do you mean you're the
What do you
guest?
mean?
I don't know. Okay, so what I think allyship is, like for me, my whole life, I have been listening to Black music. I've watched Black actors. I've always been aware of Black culture. So growing up in Newfoundland where there were not many Black folks, and you'll hear people say there were no Black people in Newfoundland. That's not true. We do have a history with Black folks and Jamaican rum running and all kinds of weird stuff. There is a Black history connected to Newfoundland that
I've heard that
Newfoundlanders
story
do not acknowledge.
Yep.
Yeah.
But anyhow, long story short, I grew up consuming a lot of Black content and like just being super aware, especially of African American culture, but like Black pop culture. So I always like longed for more diversity in Newfoundland, more cultural diversity, more I wanted international food. Just more experience. So that didn't really exist to a big extent when I was growing up. And when I finished high school, I moved away and I moved to Ireland, and I actually found myself living in a Nigerian neighborhood in Dublin, where I learned a lot about Nigerian culture, and watched every Nigerian movie that was ever made.
Yeah, I should have given you
Said
a name,
ever
you know?
made. Can you name random ones and let's see if she knows it.
I mean, I don't know what they were called. No, but I used to watch the great ones about like the witches. Like,
Of course, that's what they stuck you
Of
on,
course.
brother.
I mean, look it. Just like.
Joe is like, oh no.
So that was my introduction to Nollywood. Why am I an ally? Because I want to see Black stories from Newfoundland. There is a Black story here. There's Black culture here. There's Black community here. And it's growing now faster than it's ever grown before. And so I just knew that I am working in a facet of media in Newfoundland on which there was not a single Black crew member before, I'm going to say 2021. There was not a single Black crew member on any show I worked on, with the exception of one show, which was Frontier season 1 and season 2. And we had an executive assistant who was Black, and he was from Los Angeles. And he was here with Los Angeles executives. And I was just like, this is really noticeable. Like, there's no Black folks working in this industry at all. And not only that, we're only telling one story here. So I just knew that I wanted to help tell stories from different places. When I did the Black Barbershop, 1949, when I did that documentary, the reason I did that documentary is because CBC actually reached out to me. CBC has a series called Absolutely Canadian, which is a bunch of kind of hyper regional stories from around Canada. They offered me a half hour of an hour-long documentary, and they said, the subject is immigration. Can you do this? And I was like, I'm not an immigrant, but I'm going to be honest. I want that half hour. And I was thinking, okay, are there any diverse filmmakers I can partner with on this, like even storytellers, and maybe it can be their story. But at the time, I didn't know anybody. And so I knew this story about this barbershop because I lived around the corner from its original location when I was growing up here in the 80s and 90s, back when I was craving culture. And the idea back then that there would be a Black barbershop on the corner in your neighborhood in 20 years, like I would have never believed that. So when I moved home 10 years ago to work on Republic of Doyle and I drove by that barbershop, like I almost hit the car in front of me. I went, what the hell? And I got out and I went into the barbershop and I introduced myself to Yao and Gustavo. And I just said, oh my gosh, guys, I used to live in this neighborhood. It's so great to see you guys here. Like just a total nerd. And I went back out to my car and I said to my husband, I want to do something with that barbershop. And I wasn't a filmmaker yet. I was still just working in an office at the time. And so I put that in back of my head. And fast forward to CBC in this conversation about immigration, I was like, hold up. I was like, how about I don't do immigration and I do the theme of home? And CBC was down with that. And so then I said, well, what I want to do is I want to do a documentary based on 1949, the barbershop, and have that kind of like be a metaphor for home. Like a Black barbershop is often centered to a community, and it's where people congregate. So I wanted to feature the Black barbershop, set up a conversation between the guests of the barbershop that I directed in a sense, but I didn't write any questions. I just said, I want you guys to get together in front of my camera and just discuss home. And that's what we did. And so through that process, that's the first time I met Joe. You were getting a haircut. I don't know if you remember this, but you were getting your haircut at the barbershop. And I had a camera. And I think Yao might have introduced us and said, this is a cameraman. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like there is actually Black crew that I can hire to do the next project I do. And so just one thing led to another. I've just always had one foot in the Black community and I've just kind of always kept an eye on up and coming talent of all kinds. But when I see talent in the Black community, I just get so excited because I just want to watch the movies. And to me, also you can tell I'm never on camera. I'm always behind the camera. But to me, there is nothing more exciting than watching you all, this wave of Black creatives right now through Occupy All Spaces, literally make history. And it's like, I know no historian is like, ding, you made history. But I'm telling you, you guys are making history in Newfoundland and on our cultural landscape. And like, I'm just so excited to be behind the scenes in that. I just think it's so freaking exciting. And I love finding investors and money and making things happen. And so like, this is a great place to put it. The Black theater that's happening in Newfoundland right now is wild.
She's such a good writer and director.
Playwright.
Like, yeah.
But let me declare, because nobody's declared this yet. And if I worked at CBC, I would like write an article and put a headline on it. But like, Black theater is a thing. Black theater is in Newfoundland, and Black theater is thriving in Newfoundland.
Do you feel like there's a lot of performative allyship in the industry? And what does that look like to you?
To me, yeah. Like, we've had some challenges. One thing, I don't know if people necessarily realize, and this is like I'm not trying to tell on anybody, but like,
Shake the table, shake the table.
here's the thing. Sometimes people, okay, so you and I are professional partners, right?
You good?
Quite often, people will speak a certain way to me and a different way to you. And it's not necessarily that people are being mean. Nobody's out burning crosses or anything. But like, when there's an inherent trust in my existence and then a lot of questions in my partner's existence, that makes me like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
If we're partners, trust that Ife trusts me and I trust her and we deliver the same quality. On the other hand, in terms of like trying to make our things happen, I think the biggest challenge in like the allyship and kind of false and empty allyship is that people really want, and organizations in the community really want to attach to the things that Occupy All Spaces is doing. But they always want to be either top billed in credit or to have little to nothing to do with the shaping of the program, which is perfectly fine by us. But then you cannot come in on day one and start micromanaging how we're working. You need to trust us. And there's just this sense of like, the community wants to be a part of change, but I think some organizations and parts of the community are afraid to get it wrong. So they don't.
Yeah.
And my policy is, let's get together and make some mistakes.
Yep.
Because like, I'm sure every single person in this room, Ife certainly has, you certainly have, whether you realize it or not, like, I sometimes make mistakes. I sometimes say things that I don't even realize until it's come out loud. And Ife pulls me aside and says, Kerry, that wasn't on. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I am inherently white. I've been raised in a completely racist system. Like, who am I to think I'm not
I
racist?
just think also like, people saying things is normal. Like, we all come from different cultural backgrounds.
Okay to make mistakes sometimes.
Where as long as like, you know, but I find like as you said, like organizations will be so scared to be like,
They tiptoe.
yes, like,
Until they see we've done well,
Like,
then they are like, oh, we organized
it's like, why are
this.
you
We could see through the genuineness and through the whatever you're doing. You could
Yeah.
see that you're not trying at all. We could see that
Yeah.
you're just trying to be nice, but that's not the topic for today.
But you are right though. Like, I think people don't realize how transparent like effort is. And so if I can sense false allyship, you guys must be like, again, like this is
We don't really
exhausting.
like, we just go home, we'll pretend
It's
like
just
nothing
normal.
happened, but then we'll go
Yeah,
home
it
and
just
we'll be
becomes
like,
normal. Like, it's just another day.
we just text another day, another dollar.
Another day.
Well, here, if anybody wants advice, like here's what I would say to people of my complexion is it's better to make an effort and a mistake than to
none at
just
all.
avoid it
Yeah.
altogether.
Yeah.
And I think it's also okay. Like if you do or say something wrong, just admit it. Remember when I cried at a whole room of black folks because I witnessed racism and I should know racism exists. That was so stupid.
Again, just for context, I was here.
That was the whitest moment.
And all of us were looking at Kerry like, is she okay? Because we're okay. I just can't believe.
Guys, I'm still embarrassed.
Years, this is 2020. Why was 21 was that? This is 2022. It should have
It's 2021.
No, and we're all looking at her like,
Kerry's fine.
I feel like we're fine. But if you want to talk about it,
So the moral is, as a white person, why are you surprised there's racism all of a sudden, Kerry? And why are you shocked you couldn't control it or prevent it? Get over yourself, white lady.
To be fair, you did all that you could, but what you can't do is control how people react.
I think
or
for her it
respond.
was just the shockingness,
Shock.
the shock that whatever she did didn't work.
She said I had the best people. I thought I had the best people.
Said I had the best plan, and I talked to them, and it still didn't work.
So let's talk about that for a second. So, noted, I will do really hyper white things on occasion, but I acknowledge them and we laugh and we move on.
Yep.
That's just, I don't see any other way to be.
I would hope not.
But on that weekend, here's my context for why that was so upsetting. I tried so hard to get mentors. We were doing our very first boot camp as Occupy All Spaces, and I was trying really hard to get mentors that looked like the participants. I just thought that was the best thing. I have since learned, and I have been educated, that no, black folks don't necessarily need black mentors. They need the best mentors.
If
Obviously.
they happen to be black, then great.
It's fine.
Whatever.
Just be
But that's
good
not
at what
the
you
si-
do.
Yeah. Anyhow, so I brought in a couple of white folks, and one of them, within the first 10 minutes of introducing themselves to a room full of international
You should
students,
say,
black
trigger
folks.
warning, trigger warning.
Trigger warning. He walked in and asked which one had the Nigerian uncle who keeps emailing him. He called Jamaica a third world, said he had just been shooting down there. Guys, you can't.
That's what our mentor Yasmin, which I love. And Yas has the best hair, and it's so she has the best natural hair
With curls. and
with
stuff.
curls that I've ever seen. And he was like, so what are you hiding under there? And I was there my mouth was on, and then Kerry was just like,
She couldn't stop it. She couldn't.
Okay, so again, being white, I was the only white person in the room besides this jag, but I knew, I didn't know. I took Ife outside and I was like, Ife, what are we gonna do? We need to stop this. I was like, we need to get this guy out of here. And Ife was like, whoa. You can't make that decision for them. They need to decide their comfort level, and let's just calm down. And so, anyways, we ended up having to have a debrief at the end of the day upstairs at NIF.
I don't know if we had a debrief, but we
did.
had a therapy
Kerry
session.
got debriefed. And so this is what I'm saying to other white folks is don't put that on black folks. They know about the racism. It's not their job to soothe me.
Kerry's like, I just don't know what else to do here. And I'm like, Kerry, don't worry. If this was a normal film
It's not
set,
your job to tell me not to worry about racism against you.
No, I feel like it was actually the funniest memory I had.
But I must say, kudos to you because you really, really brought it back. And I appreciate most on that particular day because I remember it like yesterday.
I don't think Yasmin, I think Yasmin was like, this woman,
I remember it like yesterday. And what I appreciated most was that even after all of that, you didn't just let it go. You didn't just say, okay, they're okay. First said they're okay, which was true. But you came back and you said, we're going to do a debrief. How's everybody feeling? Because this is how I am feeling. And you went ahead to tell us, and everybody still, I feel like we would have left that meeting assuming that everybody was okay. and without acknowledging how everybody felt. But after the meeting, after the debrief, you could tell that people had things to say. People noticed what he was doing. People noticed the reaction, the little jokes,
Little
so I
jokes,
need to
yeah.
appreciate you for that.
And
I don't know
think
that we've talked
so
about it
often,
since.
honestly, we are. I feel like as Black people and as creatives, we're putting an environment where oftentimes we're the only one of our that look the way we look there, or the only one from where we come from. And there are things that aren't very appropriate done, but because we're just there existing, we're just supposed to be okay with it. And oftentimes we just go home. And I think that
That's
was
why I couldn't let it go without a conversation. I was like, I cannot bring a group of people into a room and introduce them to the film industry and let something like that happen and then not comment on it.
And I feel like years down the line, we would all probably have. I feel like it was really important for that to be kind of the foundation.
I think
on
it
which
did as well.
Occupy Spaces was built, because I feel like years down the line would have been like, yeah, that's the film industry. Do you really want to, because at the end of the day, like, we are a space, creating our own space, and the space has to be conducive for us. And if we're going to be in the film space has to be conducive for us. And I feel like we decide what is conducive and not, conducive. So as much as I feel like you were I just feel like you are like a melodramatic person anyway.
You were not dramatic at all.
No.
You had every right
Carrie
to feel
is
the way
such
you
an,
felt.
like, the way rain can be rain, like it's raining right now. Carrie's like,
it's
oh
raining.
my gosh, it's been raining for hours.
No, but what I saw on that day was just genuine shock. Like, oh my gosh, this is getting out of control for me, and I don't know how to put it together.
Yeah.
And that was what I saw. Another thing, or the excuse that I made for that particular man, which was the sound guy. And
Not you exposed.
But you don't know the project, so.
It wasn't.
And it's not Matthew, it's not Matthew.
It's not Matthew.
But one of the things one of the excuses that I made for him was that he had never worked in such an environment before.
But that's
and
not
maybe,
true.
No,
He had just told us he was just in Jamaica shooting a movie.
That was also, I don't know how I felt
was-
about whatever he said
exactly.
that day.
It's just not okay.
None of it. Maybe it made him feel like he was part of us, but even the little jokes afterwards, again, it was chill, it was calm, but I feel like maybe it could have been addressed afterwards. It could be that genuinely just didn't know that these things shouldn't be
Yeah,
said,
I
or
feel
there
like
wasn't
it was per like he came into a room and he was like black.
Let me be comfortable. Maybe it just wasn't comfortable. Maybe that was the scoping mechanism.
Yeah.
Maybe. I had like layers of
said
excuses.
layers.
Layers of excuses.
You
Like,
can
oh,
keep
maybe
trying to justify
But
that.
the important thing though was afterwards, after whatever happened, did anybody sitting down to say this was what you did and you shouldn't do it?
You know what, guys? Honestly,
Ask that question.
it's not.
not
I
our
don't feel
job.
like it's my job
No.
to sit down someone and be like. And I also felt like I don't feel like that person is going to be in my orbit.
We discussed it. I will be honest,
Yeah,
because
we
I
did.
wanted to.
She was ready to go, and I was like,
But
you
it's
can
gonna
do it.
be in another orbit.
But
That-
we
yeah,
did.
Well,
here's
so
the
we
thing.
discussed it. We're like, so Kerry was like, we have to talk to him. We have to say. I said, you can talk to him. I ain't gonna do that.
And they're gonna experience the exact same thing that we did
But
because
here's
you
the
guys said,
thing.
you know what, none of my business.
If you want to go and talk to him, I'll give you his
Listen,
number.
I don't even mind.
No.
Here's
Here's
the
the
number.
thing.
You can go and talk to the man
Here's
from
like-
2021.
Two things that I learned from that debrief, which was like Carrie crying at you guys. I learned
That would never not be fun.
I know, it was friggin' hilarious. So again, white people, don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's okay.
Just
mistake.
talked
But
about
look,
somebody's mistake.
two things that came out of that whole thing that really kind of threw me. One was that when we were all debriefing on that, kind of the response, and I can't remember if it was Yasmin who said this, it doesn't even really matter, but like the response was, you can try and protect us in a training situation, but the reality is when we go out and get jobs on set, you can't protect us from that.
Yeah.
So you don't need to protect us from that here. That was just jarring. The other thing was that like Ife and I talked about how do we handle this afterwards. And one of the things that came up is that there is potentially a number of people in that group who are musicians and will cross paths with this person again professionally in the music world. So we don't want to create conflicts for people who don't even know. Like, say, for example, I couldn't talk on your behalf to him because I don't know what position that puts you in the future. So we decided to just leave it. And I did we hosted our boot camp at NIFCO. So I was just kind of picking NIFCO's brain and talking to them about it and stuff. And we all just kind of agreed, like, this is not the situation to nip in the bud. But I was really clear. I was like, I would never recommend this person again to be on set in this situation.
I was thinking like we were both really green. Like I wouldn't say like back then.
Do you mean at race relations and saving the world?
No, race relations. Like I grew up in South Africa, but I'm be doing this. But I mean, like in terms of like, I wouldn't really say like in 2021 it was my industry. It wasn't an industry. It was just something that I was like, there's money. Let's try it out. See where
it's true. I was still. You were still.
Kerry was still like, fly, little baby, fly. I was like, I don't want to. I just want to make money and shake my ass on a yacht. That's what I want. Okay. But so I think I just felt like oftentimes, especially when we live in St. John's, there are people who are so ingrained in this industry that no matter where you go, you could be on a music set,
they're still getting hired.
You can be on a theater set, you will still see them. And you're going to be the one feeling awkward because no one else is going to remember that this person was the one who made this joke because they weren't there, right? So it's not going to make it seem like you've now made a fuss with this professional person that's been there for the past 70 years and you're the one who's going to be now treated awkwardly, right? Because I've been in different scenarios in this industry. So I was like, I did not want other people to go on with their careers, whether it was music or it was theater. And then like we talked to him and he's like, oh yeah, this person is from this film camp where I said this. And then they were just like, they had such thick skin and they were not making. So that's why I was like, I really like, if it's me, I can handle it. But if it's any other person, I don't know how they would handle it, right? But I think if it was to happen again today, I would definitely be like, brother, you gotta relax, man.
Okay, that's not how she
I do. That's true, actually. I do think, say, for example, if we had a boot camp next weekend and it happened next weekend, I think at this point we would definitely handle it differently.
That was our first.
That was the
first one,
We've also learned, though, how to better vet people.
Yeah.
And we've really learned the hard way that it's really crucial when you're hiring mentors that the proteges have a say in that choice, that it's not just administrators choosing who the mentor is, that the actual protege should have a say in that.
I feel like Yejide and I talk about pushback a lot.
I was going to say, speaking of not stepping on toes.
You go for it.
Yeah. Speaking of not stepping on toes and not well, maybe not offense is the right word, but not offending the people just for the sake of future projects. And also considering that if a hair could be a handful,
who's a handful, please?
I just had to sprinkle that. you are a whole body full.
Like said, who's a handful?
Ife Alaba is a handful.
How have you handled pushbacks and resistance? Have you even ever experienced it?
Heck yeah, I'm a woman and I worked for men for the first 10 years. That's why I now work for myself. Yeah, no, I got a lot of pushback.
Okay. But especially as the backbone for Black creatives.
Oh, specifically like in this adventure we're having? I mean,
it is what it is.
I have had one person say to me, this is stupid. I had one person from the industry half jokingly, like over drinks at a party, just actually what I know it wasn't half joking. You know it wasn't when you just know certain tones. But they said to me, aha, what do you think? You're black, do you? And I was just like,
oh my gosh.
Really?
Why on earth?
Wait, how did you react?
Were you like, you're dumb?
No, actually, I got really upset. And I remember being there and just kind of like, you only get one opportunity to respond to this. How are you going to do it? And my thing, I don't even know exactly what I said. I might have just told him to F off.
Was it like a movie moment?
I was so confused.
Yeah.
But I was all like, in my head, I'm just like, why does me surrounding myself with people who don't look like me mean that I think I'm them? A. B, if I did think I was black, what difference does it make to you? Get over it. C, how could I ever think I'm black? Like, I look in a mirror every day. So I don't know. It just, the whole thing was just like, you're trying to make me feel stupid for what I'm trying to change in this world. You're trying to make me small for doing something big.
Yeah.
And that says a lot more about you than it does me.
That's right.
I have also, there's a certain like way people are with me sometimes in that, like, when I do a Kerry Gamberg Butter Pictures Inc. project, I'm trusted, I'm not questioned, I'm this, I'm that. It's like, go make this happen, do your thing. When I'm working with Occupy, that's not always the case. Things are being questioned that wouldn't normally be questioned. We're being just kind of watched closer than I would be. I wouldn't be watched at all as Butter. I'm trusted. And again, I don't think people notice that we notice those things. But again, I don't think it's like cross-burning racism. I think it's a fear of things going wrong or not getting done properly. But at the end of the day, like, unless you're getting up to do any work, or you're getting up to do any work, or you're getting up to do any work, I'm the one here. I'm happy to do it. Let me make mistakes, like cry about racism in front of a bunch of people who are experiencing, like, who cares? Like, just buzz off. If you're not going to help, stay out of it.
Do you feel like when you were like, let me go into this industry, because like what you're experiencing now is kind of a fraction of like what, you know, people of color and BIPOC people are experiencing.
No, I mean,
Do you think that you would even have like, you know, crossed parts with that? Like,
do you mean, like, do you think I would experience those challenges?
yeah,
if
did you
were
think
to
like when you were like, okay, let me, you know, help out BIPOC people?
Oh yeah, I knew.
So
I've
you
lived
already
here my
kind of-
whole life.
Yes,
And I'm not talking about, like, I don't mean I've lived in Newfoundland. I knew Newfoundland's racist. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I live in a white society where there is inherent and systemic racism on every level. I knew we were going to hit barriers everywhere. And again, it's not cross-burning racism. It's structural. It's things in the system that people who are working there and on the system and look like me don't even recognize as racism and are for some reason afraid to go there. Like, that's what I don't understand about white folks, is like, what is the big fear of having conversations, of letting things change? Let Black folks into your membership. Give away money to people who aren't residents. Like, I know there's like red tape reasons why all these things happen.
Yeah.
But there's also easy ways to just like bang a hammer on a block and say, no, I declare we're going to do this differently. And like, I've always been an advocate. I'm very much a person who, like, if somebody says, this is the way we've always done it, I'm like, that's cool. Let me see if I can do it this way. That's just me. So I don't know.
Well, this isn't like, I don't know if it's on topic, but whatever. So we've talked about how, like, yes, there have been barriers and stuff like that. And well, obviously you being white and everything, which is fine because you're white.
Thank you.
But like, obviously now you work with a lot of up and coming Black creatives, not just Black creatives. Obviously, we know that there's an intersection of immigrants with Black in Newfoundland and Labrador.
And there are Black Newfoundlanders that were starting to pull out of the cracks.
Exactly. So like, what is it that you've seen in the Black community sometimes where you're just like,
I can't take this. This is too much.
what is happening, man?
They're too loud.
They're too loud.
Like, are there...
This is the setup. You're trying to tell me what's wrong with Black folks?
I'm trying to get you canceled.
But just in as you were speaking, I would like for you to, because I feel like there are so many more Kerrys out there. They just don't know where to begin. So should they just come to your door and knock? Or
No.
What advice?
I'm mentoring so many people right now.
What advice would you give to anybody who's out there watching us right now, who will watch us in future? What advice would you give to them to mentor not just Black folks, but BIPOC?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I've highlighted some of the challenges we've had in Newfoundland, But on the other hand, there are so many people in the film and television industry here in Newfoundland, in the government, in the funding bodies, in the co-op, in the equipment rental companies who are excited that there is a Black film industry being built right now. Super excited. Investors want to invest in your films, in your stories. I can't stress enough how exciting this is, not just for you guys, but like people are quietly watching and cheering you guys on. So I think that's super exciting. And anybody who wants to kind of help move this cultural revolution forward, my only advice would be to become a part of it. Reach out to Occupy All Spaces. Find out how you can help. We're always looking for mentors. We pay, but we're always looking for mentors to share their skills with us, for shadowing opportunities. If you're a screenwriter, meet with some of the Black screenwriters in town and playwrights. Find out what stories are being told. Maybe you can get together and co-write stories. I just think people need to, if they're interested in working with people of other nationalities and cultures who are doing creative things here in Newfoundland, I think they just need to reach out. Like I know Brian because I stalked Brian on Instagram. That's how I met Ife. No, that's not how I met Lisa, but like I keep an eye on talent. That's part of what I do as a producer. So again, if you're interested in supporting talent, then keep an eye on who's out there and follow them and encourage them and invest in their films. We take cash.
We take cash. Let me tell you something. We take
You're
cash.
threatening them.
I'm not threatening nobody. But we
You
take
see,
cash.
let me tell you something.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But also make mistakes as white people.
Can
It's
we go back to
okay.
the cash for the moment?
Yeah, cut us checks.
We take cash. Interact, Venmo, PayPal.
Charitable receipts. We are registered not-for-profit.
That's one. All of it. We take. There's a bank account, corporate. There's also my own personal account. If you also want to sponsor me, I also take cash.
And what are we do? Okay, and so Occupy All Spaces.
If you don't want the cash, you can keep quiet. But we want the cash.
So what are we doing with all that cash as Occupy All Spaces? We're
investing
producing
it.
content. We're telling Black stories. We're giving opportunities for playwrights, for screenwriters to make films, plays, podcasts. We're making products, songs,
dance.
music. How many people from the Black community were working professionally on sets before Occupy All Spaces?
Joe.
Joe is creating his own sets, though.
But it's still professional.
Yeah.
Joe.
Joe. But in terms of like the unionized film and television industry, the studio television shows, I can tell you that the quantifiable difference between now and 2020 is very much because of Occupy All Spaces. And we didn't even,
We're just
we
beginning.
could have worked harder
We really could have.
because we were not getting paid. We still aren't. But just help.
But you've talked about like the advice you would give to mentors and if people want to get involved. But on the flip side, for people who want to get into the industry as whether Black or BIPOC or even just anyone starting out, what advice would you give them? New talent.
So I do everybody kind of wants to be a storyteller. When people think about film and television, they're like, I want to be a director or a producer or a camera person. Those are great goals. They take a while to get to. You need a lot of training. You need experience to be that director, that producer, and the camera person. That's all great. Go for that. In the meantime, film productions need electricians. They need people to set lighting up. They need people to do accounting. They need people to do paperwork. They need people to just drive people around. There's catering. There's snacks. There are so many different jobs that are involved in a film production that we are having hard times filling. We need people who are called scenic painters. They just paint the background in a studio. We need carpenters to just assemble things. Like there are so many jobs to be had that are kind of regular world skills that people don't even realize, you know.
Interior decors, makeup.
100%. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be like a film centric type position.
Yeah.
And just one example is we have a participant named Yejide who's from Nigeria, and he's a student at the College of the North Atlantic's film program right now. He is a professional electrician back in Lagos, came here and didn't even realize that his skills transferred directly to a whole other industry. So he started taking the tech course at CNA, and when he's set to graduate this coming year, he will be more than ready to seamlessly get a full-time job on a production. And so my point is that while you're trying to get your stories told, your scripts written, your films made, get experience as other entry-level jobs on film sets. Become a production assistant, make photocopies, be a gopher and get coffee. Like just get seen, and you will just be so much more successful, so much faster if you don't wait to get to the top, if you actually work your way to the top. And in the meantime, the film and television industry does pay very well. It's a unionized industry, but always needs new people. So there's room to get in, even if you're not a unionized person. And
So how do they get in? Do they just like knock on like a production office and say, hey, can you give me a job?
Like getting to a union?
No, like getting to like.
how do you know what productions are happening?
How do you know what productions are happening? Because I think that is one of the things
It's
that
the biggest barrier.
is a barrier that, you know, as much as people have these skills, it's like, where do I go with my skill? It's such a, you know, it feels like one of those like Tinkerbell things where you kind of have to like put your,
It's luck and it's nepotism. Like Hollywood, it's not just Newfoundland. The film industry, excuse me, is based on nepotism. You hire quickly and you hire the closest, fastest person you can trust, kind of thing. With
So-
the union aside.
so what advice would you give for that? If someone's looking for a set to go on, where do they go?
So my advice is if you want to get film work, is to start Googling film production companies in St. John's and in Newfoundland and start sending your resume and send a cover letter saying, you know, you'll see on my resume, all I've done is photography, but I'm really interested in any aspect of film. Like just write a little blurb that explains kind of what you want out of this. Because I'll tell you, you should send your resume, but nobody's going to look at it. Film people are generally just looking for somebody with warm blood who will be on time and say yes to what they're asked to do. That's all we really need on a film set to get started. So you do have to be reliable, you have to be mobile, and you also have to understand that to work in film and television, the average day is a 12-hour day. That's just the way it's structured. So you need to have stamina. And don't wait to be a director. Go be a production assistant. Go start. That's how I started. I would never know what I'm doing if I didn't start at the bottom, you know?
If you had to do it again, what are your best 5 steps?
Instead of
Or 10, you can.
or 15.
Yeah.
You know how many awards? 17 awards. You can't do 5 steps.
And 35 nominations,
Bruh,
girl.
do better.
I would have, I mean, nothing. I don't like being on camera. The only thing I would have done differently is I wouldn't have worn what I wore the day I shit my pants on set.
You know?
Yeah, you go ahead and tell us.
That's a wrap.
No, but like, even though, you know,
I have no regrets.
we do.
No, back up. Sorry, and I do interrupt. I'm sorry.
No worries.
This is one piece of advice you heard me give a lot, and I mean this. If you get in film and television, go to the bathroom when you feel the urge. I don't care if they're rolling and everyone needs silence. If you have to go to the bathroom, you have to go to the bathroom. And if you save it for 10 years, the bathroom's going to start going on you.
Kerry, you did not shit your pants, though.
Yeah, it is.
You didn't.
I was really working hard. It was my movie.
I'm gonna bring this back around.
That's a whole other episode. I'd like to be brought back
No, she's
for
not.
just embarrassing moments in film
Yeah.
and television. That and put me on that episode.
but
That's only
like
one
if,
story.
But, but like if, like for someone who's watching, let's say this is their first introduction to film and television, what were your 5 steps that you think that they should do?
So today, if you want to get into film and television, I want you to watch as many movies and TV shows as you can.
Very important.
Not just American ones. You should be watching things in different languages. I
With
think
subtitles or not?
if you can read, yeah. And I think you should be making movies with your phones. I think you should be writing scripts and stories. I think you should be doing first-time film programs. I think you should get a job as a production assistant on a big show. That's 6 things.
I think you should meet Kerry, and I think you should make
Follow me on Instagram.
network with people like if Alaba, like Brian behind the scene, like Joe Views,
Like
and
Yejide.
Matthew who's in the sound, and just the talented people who are in this room right now. I think that you should be networking a lot. There's Occupy All Spaces, which is available to you on Instagram. You can go ahead, send us a DM, follow us. We don't discriminate. If we don't
And
know where,
Yejide will check all the DMs.
if we don't know, if we don't have the resources right now, we would be able to point you to the people who know.
That's one thing we're really good at.
Yep.
Pointing.
We don't say, oh, we can't help you, and then go figure it out. I learned that from Kerry.
We will put you with the person who has the answer.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Like, so much of what we've done as Occupy is not because I know everything or Ife knows everything. It's because we know Joe and Joe knows camera. We know Matt and Matt knows sound. We know Laura Churchill and Laura Churchill knows financing. We know Anna Petrus. Anna Petrus knows mentoring. Like, that's we match make people.
Yeah. That's great advice, honestly. And I think obviously like we're so grateful that you decided to be you and didn't stop being you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
And that
Thank you
you're
for gracing us.
yeah, for gracing us with your presence. I like sometimes I feel like Kerry just thinks like she's just like Kerry, and it's just like, but like people really were like, oh my gosh, the Kerry Gamberg.
Yes.
The there's a the, not the.
But get at us. We want more people in our community. We want more participants in our programs.
All right. We're gonna bring this to a close. Thank you so much, Kerry, just for gracing us with your beautiful smile and your presence.
Yeah.
We're gonna give a quick shout out to Celebrate NL. Thank you so much for the support and for giving us the opportunity to celebrate diversity here in NL.
Yeah.
Until next time.
And our executive producer.
Shout out to Zakiya.
Yeah.
Shout out to Zakiya Young behind the scenes, and shout out to Brian just for always.
Why is Brian being shutted out?
And shout out to Lisa for the.
And shout out
for
to
the
Joe
support.
and shout out to everybody in the world.
Yeah.
I'm joking. But yeah, this was our first episode. It's done. And I feel like it was such a good one.
Yeah.
It was a good one.
I hope you guys feel the same, but until next time.
Peace.